Welcome to the Standard Deviations podcast, presented by Orion Advisor Solutions and hosted by Dr. Daniel Crosby, Orion's Chief Behavioral Officer and New York Times best-selling author. Each week, Dr. Crosby interviews a fascinating new guest on a range of compelling topics, from literature to psychology to financial wellness. To learn more about Dr. Crosby's behavioral finance work at Orion, visit www.orion.com.
Hello and welcome to the Standard Deviations podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Daniel Crosby, and I am joined today by fellow Georgian, Robert Sofia, CEO of Snappy Kraken. He's here to share the results of a really exhaustive study, 10,000 advisors, over 500,000 campaigns, 250 million data points that led to the most comprehensive piece I have ever seen on advisor marketing. There was so much richness, we couldn't put half of it in today's conversation, but we'll at least get enough to whet the appetite. So, Robert, thanks, and welcome to the show.
Thank you. I'm excited to talk about it. Thanks for having me.
By
the way, I don't consider myself a Georgian, though. I live in Georgia now, but I'm really a Floridian, just for the record.
It's okay. So at the risk of poo-pooing the state where we live, I don't consider myself a Georgian either. I mean, I'm an Alabamian forever. I talk to my wife, like at the risk of digressing pretty hard out of the gate, I'm like, where are we going to get buried? Because I'm from Alabama. My wife's from Connecticut. We live in Georgia. Like, what's going on here?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Nice place, but not who we are. Right, Robert?
Exactly. Nailed it.
Okay. So let's jump in. There's so much good stuff in here. I want to start with one of the gaudier stats that I saw in your report, and it was around SEO. And you all found that advisors who relied on SEO strategies had 94% higher new visitors and 74% higher page views than those who didn't. And then the great thing about the report is you offer your findings and then you offer some tips and some sort of so whats. And the specific example that you give is that a lot of times advisors are trying to compete around super crowded keywords, something like retirement planning. And you say instead, go ultra niche with the SEO and talk about the RSU vesting schedule of a local business, Amazon for someone in the Seattle area. Is SEO optimization, it's clearly very important. SEO optimization is one of those disciplines where I'm like, I wouldn't even know where to find someone reputable. Like, I know it's important, but there's also a lot of scammy stuff, I think, associated with SEO optimization. How do you think about, if I'm an advisor, how should I think about optimizing for SEO if it's that important?
Yeah, it's a fair question because there is a lot of junk in terms of SEO value props out there that don't really do the job. And SEO is not a one and done thing. So for example, if you buy a new website and it comes with an SEO package, all that means is it's getting set up properly. The meta tags and the page titles and the way that the images are labeled and everything is initially done correctly. But it doesn't mean it's going to continue to generate traffic for you. So SEO is a long-term strategy. And so you've got to really think about how the ongoing content strategy factors into that. What are you adding to the site over time to support that audience? And you have to make sure somebody really digs in to what your audience is searching. And that's a big key. If they're just there to stuff keywords, well, that doesn't work anymore. That worked in the early 2000s. And so the first sign that you're probably not working with the right partner to help you with SEO is if they don't understand your ideal client and what they're worried about, what they're thinking about, what they're pursuing, and what they're searching. So you mentioned Amazon's RSU vesting schedule. I think that's an example that's actually in the report, but let's take something that's much more common to advisors. That's a really good example because it's specific if you work with Amazon employees. But let's just say you work with pre-retirees. So that's more common, right? So then you've got to think about what are they searching and how do you figure that out? What keyword research is needed? And so long tail keywords are a way to help you figure out your blogging strategy and your content strategy for your website and what subpages exist on your website, like phased retirement for late career professionals might be something that works for that group, or estate planning advice for business owners nearing exits. You start to get into what is that audience really looking for, and that's how you can compete. So you need a partner that A, sets you up right, and then B, has an ongoing content strategy to ensure that you're continuing to build, because your value on how you rank on search engines will go up or down over time depending on what you're doing. So it has to be a prolonged engagement, and you build up equity over time as you add content, as you structure it properly, and your SEO strategy can improve. But you got to look at reviews, you got to look at testimonials, you got to look at case studies and reputation, and then just the overall process.
Is content really the number one driver of SEO, way more than tags and all these other things? Is it really a robust content engine that's going to drive that?
Well, that's the goal. And it should be, because that's what the search engines are designed to do, is help you find good content. But what drives SEO performance is a bit of a moving target too, because the algorithms are always changing. So, keywords is one. You've got what's inside your content, what's in your blog posts, is the content matching user intent? So if you have this disjointed, disparate messaging, that's going to be a problem. But that's just one piece. Then you've got the backlinks. So are there other authoritative websites that are linking back to you that help improve your domain authority and your credibility? You've got the things like the navigation and the site structure. And then there's the technical SEO, which is all those elements and how they're tagged, and page load speed and mobile friendliness and crawlability. And there's a lot to it. So the need to have an expert either on your team or hire one who can understand all that and then monitor changes, including surfacing the analytics and doing the tracking to see how it's performing over time and doing things to improve it, is key if you want to have a successful SEO strategy.
I want to switch to one of the most surprising findings of the study for me. Perhaps I'm the weirdo here, but you found that advisors who have a text me widget on their website get 400% greater opt-in. 400%. That is wild. 400% greater opt-in than those who don't. And you also found that text has a much higher open rate and a 97% faster response rate than email. I am super protective of my text, right? Like, my email is kind of a lost cause. I understand that. But my text, that's, I'm annoyed by my family group chat. I can't imagine.
As am I, yeah.
Right? I got my in-laws, I got my parents. No, but I already get way more text than I want, without having to worry about my advisor or a company texting me. I was a little surprised by that. Help me make sense of how compelling it looks to have a texting option for advisors.
Yeah, and I have no idea where you fall in the, I think it was 91% of consumers that say they want to text businesses. I mean, you might be in the 9% that doesn't, and that's okay. And maybe I am too. We're looking at broad strokes of data. And just because opt-ins are 4 times higher, or 400% higher actually, than email, doesn't mean that it works for everybody who visits your site. But statistically, it's going to perform better. And, the answer to why that is a little more complex than just the fact that it is the case. But some of the things that we can deduce from that is fundamental to just the way consumers are today. So, for example, they want instantaneous value. They're impatient. Texting does have the perception of instantaneous value. You expect you're going to get a faster response that way. So if you get the right people to the site, that's where the SEO strategy comes in. And then you have compelling offers, something that they want. Their intent should be high enough that now when they want it now. And so they're acting by text. There is also the fact that text messaging is a very personal form of communication. You mentioned your family. That's what most of our family and our friends. So the advisory relationship is pretty personal too. It's not just prospects texting, it's also clients texting their advisors. So there's that personal and direct aspect of it. I think there's also bias that doesn't exist yet with text, that does with email, that it's going to be spammy. Email is sort of built the reputation, I guess you could say, that you give somebody your email address, you're going to get spam. They're going to blow you up. But texting has not really, although there are some abuses of it, it's not gotten to that point where it's really saturated, where you're getting marketing texts all the time. And it's pretty easy to block those. So I think people just feel like, oh, I don't want to get spammed. But for some reason with text, it's like, oh yeah, I want a quick answer. And actually, you can test this in conversations with people. If you ask somebody that you just met, hey, let's exchange emails, versus, hey, do you text? And you just try that. Just alternate. You will find that people hesitate less with do you text. They really will. It's not something that we typically struggle with, doing even with people we've just met. Hey, let's text me your number, let's connect. And so I think all those things come into play. I'm not a psychologist, you are, but those are some of the factors. And I think, the last thing I'll say on this point is it does have to do with the offer. It all has to do with the offer, because just saying, hey, give me your cell phone number does nothing like, here's a good reason that you should exchange dialogue with me over text. And so you got to think about that too.
That's exactly right. I think my biggest takeaway from what you just said, my biggest aha is it's just a higher quality channel, right? Email is so corrupted. It's so associated with spam now and so low quality that we've come to expect less from that. And text is a higher quality channel, but with that comes the responsibility to send only high priority, high quality stuff to people's phones, unless you want to get blocked as well, right? I have a really favorite acai bowl place down the street that I love to go to basically once a week, and gave them my number recently as part of a frequent flyer kind of thing. And they hit me 3 days in a row with some kind of acai stuff. I'm like, look, I don't need daily texts about your smoothies, right? And then we were done, right? So it's with great power comes great responsibility. You're swimming in that better channel, but don't abuse it, and don't make text go the way of email. Let's stay on email for a minute though, because you had some surprising findings there as well. Brendan Fraser, another behavioral finance guy, just sent me a really great email with podcast with James Clear of the Zillion Selling Atomic Habits. And he sent it to me because it was all about his book launch strategy. Brendan knows I have a book coming out, and was being helpful there about a book launch strategy.
Oh, nice.
It was so fantastic listening to him. His whole, he's done a lot right, clearly, but all of it hinged around email. And that's nothing I've ever done well. I feel like I have a strong social following, engaged, podcast listeners, all these different things. But your study found the same thing. You looked at email, organic social, organic search, and paid social media, and email beat all other channels combined, which was super compelling to me. This is the oldest, arguably the least sexy channel that, of the 5 you studied. Can you talk about the power of email and how advisors can build a list that will serve them well?
Yeah, definitely. And I'll just tell you, email's our secret weapon at Snappy Kraken. Our growth is primarily driven by email. It has been for years. So if I were to combine all these marketing channels, all these strategies, all these tactics, and distill them down to what's working best for advisors, it's get more email addresses and email them weekly. And that sounds way simplified, almost too simplified. If I got on stage at a conference to talk about marketing and I said that, people would be bored to tears. but it is the truth. And that's what the data proves. And email has been around since the 70s, but even though it's been corrupted by spam, even though everything is promised to replace it or make it obsolete, there are some basic facts that continue to be true. And those are, everybody has email, everybody checks it. And when it comes to having a quality list of people who are opted in by their own choice, of their own accord, we're talking about quality opt-ins. I'm not talking about going out and buying a list. They are very high intent, very high quality, because they are giving you permission to their sacred inbox. And once somebody has done that, again, if you don't abuse it, they should be both getting your emails and checking them at least when the subject line interests them. And so, although social media is something that we readily disengage from, platforms change, followers are fickle, what's in vogue changes, a well-written message from one person to another by email continues to get opened. And so when we look at the traffic sources and we think about the nature of an advisory relationship, because this is all financial advisor marketing, I think, talking about 10,000 advisors and, tens of millions of emails that were analyzed. The relationship element of this is also a driver, because we don't do bulk blast email newsletters like a lot of companies do. We even, our timely biweekly emails that we create for advisors, they are from a single person to a single person in the way they're sent, so they don't end up in the spam folder, the way we set up our email servers, and they're written in plain text. They include personalization. The advisor is encouraged to add personal elements. And so we've built up a reputation for these advisors that their emails are going to be meaningful, personal, timely, and that means the open rates continue to improve, the click rates continue to improve. And so the data has been this way since we started doing this study back in 2020. And I think email is, it's just not something that's going away. And when it comes to the list building that advisors need to do, it has to be a priority, because this channel just keeps working.
One of the points that James Clear made that I thought was so compelling, you touched on it there briefly, was the ability to control the platform. If you're building on Facebook or you're building on Instagram or TikTok, Twitter, wherever, you're subject to the vagaries of whatever that platform is doing at any given time. And I mean, look, I've been on Twitter for however long, longer than I should have been. And in that time, it's waxed, it's waned, they've throttled users, they've let it run. And the utility of Twitter as a result has sort of ebbed and flowed in a very big way for me. And currently it's not great, right? And it's not great just because of how it's been corrupted and diminished, and then they can make you pay and they can make you pay more. Your email list is yours, right? That's right. Yours. So that's one thing I love about it. One of the questions I get all the time from advisors is they want to write a book, right? I mean, that's people come to me weekly saying, hey, I want to write a book like you. How do I write a book? The first question my publisher will ask a potential author is about their platform. And email will be a huge part of that. Will be about their reach and their platform. So if you're an advisor who wants to write a book, wants to delve into podcasting or writing or speaking or any of these things, it's you control it, and it's going to help you get there in a big way.
Yeah, you're right. It's an asset, no doubt about it.
Yeah. So let's stay on emails, because not all emails are created equal. And one thing that I've liked about your conversation today, I think a lot of times when we talk about marketing, we're looking for hacks, right? How can I buy a list, and how can I pump my numbers on social media, and how can I go viral? And what I'm hearing from you is there's really no substitute for good quality content, right? Personalized, high quality content. If you're going to be in someone's inbox weekly, you're not going to be there for long. if it's not germane to their lives, if it's not interesting. Your study found that among emails, video emails outperformed in a big way with more than double the open rate and double the click-through rate of text alone. I know video makes a lot of people nervous, right? A lot of people, say, look, I got a face made for radio or whatever. Like if people are nervous about getting started with video, what would you tell them? Because it does seem like such a powerful means of reaching folks.
Yeah, I hear it a lot. And actually, I hate to admit this. I don't think I've admitted this publicly, but I'm going to do it. On your podcast, Dan, advisors have video tools in Snappy Kraken that make video marketing as easy as it can possibly be. But only 15% of our users take advantage of that tool. So 85% of them don't use our video campaigns, even though they are effective and they are easy. And I've dug into that. Why? Because that's what it comes down to. Why won't they use this? And the answer is always some fear or something is holding them back from starting to record videos. And mind you, we give them the script, we tell them what lighting to use, we tell them what audio to use, we offer them coaching, and they still won't do it. Something holds them back. And I think more than anything else, it is fear of how they are perceived. And when I try to peel back the layers and really understand what it is, that's how it seems to be. And I will hear things like, well, I'm just not that articulate. I've got a face for radio. It's a lot of negative self-talk, frankly. And so I'll answer your question now, because you said, what would I say to people who aren't doing it? I would say you've got to let go of that and realize people want to hear from you. They already like you. They like your face. They like your voice. They like what you have to say, because if they didn't, you wouldn't have clients. So when you sit across the desk from somebody and you talk to them and they are listening and they say thank you and they are educated, that thing right there that you just did, that you do every single day, is the exact same thing you have to do on video. So be yourself. Don't worry. You don't have to be a professional presenter. People already love you for who you are. Don't worry about the environment. If it's clean and professional, you're good to go. Just make sure good lighting and decent audio. That's it. Good lighting, decent audio. Don't be in the dark. Don't be unhearable. And the rest of it is noise. Just do what you do. And if you can just get past yourself and break out your phone and do that, or your webcam and do it, your reactions to that you will get from clients and prospects, the increased open rates, the increased engagements, will be so motivating. Once you see it, you'll never stop.
Yeah, it's really not about us, right? It's not about you, because here we've got something that could double the efficacy of whatever message you're trying to get. Your research says this will double the efficacy of whatever you're trying to get to your clients. And yet 85% of users who are already paying for your service are not availing themselves of it because of some fear. It is fear. Everyone, it's worry about their appearance, worry about the appearance of their surroundings or whatever. So whatever that fear is, it's not about you. It's about your clients who already love you, or they wouldn't be paying you, right? And so getting past that, I think, is a powerful piece of advice. Let's talk about client segmentation. That's mentioned in the report. For me, I always default to sort of behavioral segmentation. I think about personality profiles and things like this. How are you recommending that advisors segment their clients? Is it by interest, like life stage, goals, psychology? How do we go about this process of segmentation and the delivery of more tailored content?
Yeah, it's a tough thing because it takes a lot of work to segment properly, and most firms just don't do it. Most advisors don't do it. And so we simplify it a lot, more than we would like to, but it's typically a win for us if we can get them to just have 2 lists at the very minimum of clients and prospects. That at the very basest level. And that's the vast majority of the advisors we work with. It doesn't mean that's the most effective way, though. It doesn't mean it's the only way. And we do have advisors who take it to another level, and they have lists for everything, different events they got people from, different groups, different charities they're part of, different community organizations they're part of. And that's awesome. And they market to those people different. They'll take the communications that we have and customize them just enough for that group. And they are more effective that way. I think what I would want advisors to think about is, at the very least, if clients and prospects is the baseline, because anything below that is just, you're talking to your friends the same way you're talking to strangers. That's not cool. So at the very basis, right? If you want to step it up, I like to think about the next level of segmentation. One is inside the client category and one is inside the prospect category. And so inside the client category, I think it's important to have your clients segmented based on factors like revenue and likability. And so you have your tiers of clients. And that should influence the type of marketing. If you're having a referral event and you're inviting one client to play golf with you and you're going to pick up the tab for 3 of their friends to be on the foursome or something like that, then you want those to be clients. You don't want to invite all your clients to that. It should be easy to go in and drop a communication to your best clients for that. So that's one side. And then on the prospect side, I think at the very minimum next level, you should have at least accumulators, pre-retirees, and retirees separated. And that's because when you're a high earner in your mid-30s with a family, the topics you're interested in around maximizing savings and career advancement are different than when you are closer to retirement and you're thinking about tax and income planning in retirement or lifestyle considerations for retirement. And that's different from when you're in retirement and you're thinking about maximizing Social Security benefits and spousal and survival benefits. And so you don't want to conflate all those groups and send everybody the same communications, or it shows that you're not thinking about the individual. And great marketing is really great relationship building. And great relationship building is based on knowledge of somebody. So this is a complex topic. We could do a whole hour on it, but that's where I suggest taking it to after you've got the clients and prospects. Segment your clients, segment your prospects by life stages at the very least. And anything beyond that is way more granular, of course.
Sure. Yeah, we at Brinker, we used to take for a couple of years in a row, we took some training from the Ritz-Carlton, whatever it was, the Ritz-Carlton Leadership Institute. And they would come train us on service models that were based on the way you get treated when you go to the Ritz. And you feel like a king or a queen when you go to the Ritz, right? We used to stay there when we were shopping for homes in Atlanta. My kids would insist that we would stay there because they had jelly beans, right? And it's like, stupid old dad, I'd go pay double so my kids could get peach flavored jelly beans because I'm trying to get them excited about moving to Georgia. But one of the things that the Ritz leadership folks talked about was, if you ask for a piece of information and then you don't deliver on it, you're actually going to do damage to the relationship. So here you go. When you ask someone, coming to the Ritz, okay, when's your birthday? And what's your drink preference and all this stuff? Because they would keep cards with, okay, well, Daniel's born in October and he likes green tea. And if you ask me that and I tell you, and then there's not some green tea waiting in my room when I get there, I'm not just, I'm actually dissatisfied. It's not a neutral thing anymore. If I don't get the little card on my birthday that says, thanks for being a great customer, I'm upset. Why'd you ask about my birthday? And so I can envision a world in which, a client of yours who's, bared their soul to you, who's talked about every part of their financial and personal life, they're 75 years old, 15 years into retirement, and they're getting correspondence from you about, how 529 plans and maxing out their 401k. It's are they what are we doing here? Because they're not even listening to me. And not only is it's not just neutral, it's negative. So I think that's a great example of how a failure to segment leads people to feel unheard and in a real way. Robert, my favorite part of the whole thing, the document is chock full of value. My favorite part of the whole thing was your referral template. And I have literally every referral template I've ever seen has been so corny and has felt so canned. And I thought this one was really good, both in the timing and the delivery. What have you, referrals are the lifeblood of an advisor's business, but asking for referrals can be clunky, cumbersome. When and how do you find that referrals work well?
Yeah, everybody wants more referrals, and getting them predictably is difficult. And over the years, scaling a practice and then just helping thousands of advisors, I've tried to crack the code on this many times, and really finally did figure out there's two things primarily that drive referrals, and one is client events, and the other is asking this way. And just so you know, we had 5 advisors trying different scripts, and we tried them all, by the way. We tried the whole, there's 2 ways I get paid. One is your referrals, and those things just, they come across very, for lack of a better word, selfish. It just feels like you're more there to serve yourself than the client, and that never sat well with us. And I think the fact that I felt uncomfortable, and a lot of advisors do, is for a good reason. So this referral script that we actually developed over a number of years, and then I've taught to other advisors, is one that's based on giving, not just getting. And it sort of flips the script on that old-fashioned referral ask and makes it more of an offer. And the idea behind this is your clients know you're in business. They know you want to grow. But more importantly, they need to know that you care about them and the people they care about. And there is nothing more effective at getting a referral than when a client knows and really senses that you're going to care about the people they refer and take great care of them and make that client look good. And it's all based on that. So essentially, we flip it around. So instead of asking for a referral, we're offering it. And it goes something sort of like this. Client says thank you. And that's always the trigger. That is the mental note that we highlighted in our brains. Anytime a client would say, thank you so much, this is so nice, I love you guys, give me a hug, thank you. Like, when you hear that thank you, that expression of appreciation, that's when you do this, because they're also feeling generous at that moment. So you can express appreciation and generosity in return. It's very natural by saying something like, I'm so glad that I've been able to help you this way. This is why I get out of bed every day. It is a delight to help clients like you. And actually, you might be surprised to know this, but we meet people all the time who are working with advisors that do not get any of this kind of care. And that's why, just so you know, we always keep some availability in our schedule, especially with all the things going on in the markets and the economy and the uncertainty right now. We always keep spots open for the friends and family of our best clients. And I don't offer this to everybody, but you're one of my best clients. I will do this for you anytime. If there's somebody a friend, a neighbor, somebody you think isn't getting this kind of care from their advisor, or has questions, or is feeling the uncertainty, you just send them my way and I will roll out the red carpet for them. I will absolutely take great care of them. Make sure they are getting this too. Client says, thank you. Again, thank you so much. That's really nice of you. Let them respond to that. And then I would say afterward, by the way, can you think of anybody right now that would benefit from that? And that open-ended question is really important too, because you're not saying, yeah, let me know if you do. You're actually saying, can you think of anyone? You're forcing them to recall it. And if they don't have an answer right now, it's stuck open. It's an open-ended question in their mind. Can you think of anyone? And then oftentimes they'll say, you know what, actually, I was just talking to my neighbor Bill, and he was wondering about Tesla stock. And there you go, you're off. So it's a way to naturally prompt. I think of it more like a prompt, a referral prompt. Prompt people to give you referrals without seeming selfish or sleazy, and in a way that expresses care and concern for them. And to me, that's the best way to get a referral.
Yeah, it's so good. I mean, the timing piece is so critical, right? Like this is something I work with my kids on. My kids will ask myself and my wife for, whatever, a favor, to go play with a friend or something. And they'll ask at the point of our greatest frustration, like I'll emerge from my office after a long day of work and I'm pulling my hair out and they're like, hey, can I have this? And you're like, no, and they just say, hey, just give it a minute, right? Like timing is a critical thing in life. So the timing is critical. They're already thanking you. And then the means by which you do it puts them at the center and their friends at the center. Not there's two ways I get paid, where they're like, look, dude, I passed your car in the parking lot. Like you're getting paid just fine. Like I don't need to help you make more money, right? I need to help my friends. I have had 2 friends from church this week ask me to help them find an advisor. You are doing people a huge service. People don't know where to look. People don't know who they can trust. They don't know how to distinguish a fiduciary from a salesperson, like an exhaustive, like full financial planning operation from something, much, much worse than that. You really are helping people. And so time it right and position it thusly. It's the best one I've ever seen. So many of them are so ham-handed, so sort of advisor-centric and get-me-paid-centric. And it just doesn't work. I thought that was the best part of the whole thing. Let's talk about the other half of that now. You talked about client events, and this is where the fun is to me, right? This is where advisors can be a little bit creative in their approach. Your data found that 57% of clients accept, and around a third of those were willing to bring a friend, a prospect for you to meet with. What are some of the coolest, most innovative events that you've seen in your experience?
Yeah, I've seen a lot and I've hosted a lot. So my start in the industry actually was as the VP of marketing at a firm that wanted to grow referrals and thought events were a good idea based on something they heard in the industry. And my job was to come in and plan events. So I've probably planned and hosted 100 events. And that means charity events, golf events, movie nights, bowling nights, symphonies in the park. I've done it all. The best events have some things in common for sure. I would add the most effective events for generating referrals also have specific things in common. And so although there is a 300-part checklist that I give away and probably a lot of advisors use, there are some simple principles too. And these are what they are. I think number one, it has to be something worth going to that has some novelty. Either it's education you need because we're in a presidential election year and you want to know how it's going to impact the markets and it's really, you're curious. There's a real big curiosity factor. That's maybe on the educational side. Or it has to be something that's just really fun and unique. Some of the best events we ever did were renting a big movie screen in the park, having a movie in the park on a nice spring evening. Things like having a golf event for charity where all the proceeds go to charity and it's a big charity that people want to support, like heart disease or cancer. But the novelty of it has to be there. Things that have a reward. And if you're in a town that doesn't have a great place that does wine tastings and you're into wine, then why can't you host a wine tasting at your office every month or in a rented room? And that's the other thing, is it has to be something you're into. I think the factors are, right, people want to go, it's fun, there's a reason to be there, it's authentic to you is key. If I'm not a good bowler, it'd be silly for me to have a bowling event. I'm just going to, bowl gutter balls all the time, which would be true of me. So you wanted something where you can actually do well and look good at the event. And then the other thing is you have to make sure there's an incentive to bring friends along. And so we would do things like every client gets a couple free tickets. We donate to charity on behalf of every person they bring. We've done things like register ahead of time online or fill out a registration form when you arrive to make sure we capture information on all the guests. And then making sure that there are subtle but effective ways to promote your business there. It is a business event. And I've heard advisors say, I don't want to do anything business. I don't want to talk business. We just get together and we do this. And I say, okay, so you spent $11,000 on the event and you didn't get any lead capture? So what is the way that you promote it? Like, I'll go back to a couple examples I just mentioned. When we would do the movies, and we rented out movie theaters too, we would always play a video on our firm as the trailer. That was the trailer for the movie. And everybody would have to register to get their tickets. So we would have all their email addresses and all their phone numbers. That's just one example. So you got to think about that. How am I going to monetize this event? And when you do those things right, people will come, people will bring friends. Our clients used to know every time they brought a friend, we didn't put it in writing. Compliance didn't want us to. But every time they brought a friend, they'd walk away with a bottle of wine. Every time. And so would their friend. They'd bring their friend. They both get a couple bottles of wine. They started to learn. And it was an incentive. So these are the things that require some thoughtfulness, but when they're incorporated, your event strategy can drive a ton of referral business.
There's some real behavioral sophistication to what you did there. The whole, send the client home, but as well as their friend with a bottle of wine. Now now the client who brought the friend is a hero in that client's eyes. Well, wow, thank you. You hooked me up. The other thing that I thought was even more brilliant was so Mr. and Mrs. Crosby, we'd like you to come to this event. Your family's been you have 4 tickets, right? You have 4 tickets. So it's a form of loss aversion, right? So you can bring another couple or they just go to waste, but you have 4. It's a materially different thing to say, hey, Mr. and Mrs. Crosby, you're invited. Let us know if you want to invite someone, versus you have 4 tickets. And I'm like, oh no, I don't want to waste these, right? I've got access for another couple, and I want to make sure that gets implemented, that gets used. So there's just these little tweaks, but make people, I brought a friend to an advisor event recently, and there was an over 2-hour long product pitch at this thing. And my friend was a good sport about it, but you could tell they were kind of like, what the heck? And I felt stupid for having brought them. It's a much different thing than going home with a bottle of wine and a smile on your face because you got a free movie. So be a little thoughtful about it, and be sure to incorporate that business in there, if only in a small sort of measured way. I love that. Well, hey, we're out of time here. If people want to get their hands on this study, can you start by telling us where folks can get their hands on this information, and then also tell us you have some behavioral finance initiatives going on there at Snappy Kraken. Let the listeners know about that as well.
Yeah, so snappykraken.com. Very easy. We'll give you this study. It's linked on our website. You can find out anything about us that way. Or hit me up on social media at Robert Sofia, and I'll be happy to share anything. As far as behavioral finance, fundamentally, we believe that behavior modification is one of the most vital tenets of being a successful financial advisor to your clients. You have to help them adopt the right behaviors, stick to them. And so we've invested a lot in content around behavioral finance topics, how fear and greed kill returns, and other things related to specific niche audiences, overcoming biases and things like that. So we've got a 10-campaign package of content. We even did a collaboration with Carl Richards using his sketches around various behaviors to reinforce the right ones, hopefully help decrease the wrong ones. And that's all available through Snappy Kraken and also through our partners at Orion and Redtail.
Well, Robert, thank you for coming on the show. This thing is just absolutely jam-packed. When I was reading through it, I was like, man, if I were an advisor, I would be gleaning so much specific, actionable information from this. It's a treasure trove of good next steps for those listeners. Hope you'll go take advantage of it. And Robert, thank you again for coming on today.
Thank you. It was my pleasure.
Thanks for tuning in to Standard Deviations. If you can't wait till next week for more behavioral finance insights, visit www.orion.com. All opinions expressed by Dr. Daniel Crosby and podcast guests are solely their own opinions and do not reflect the opinion of or endorsement by Orion and its affiliates, subsidiaries, and employees. This podcast is for informational purposes only and should not be relied upon as a basis for legal, tax, and investment decisions. The opinions are based upon information the participants consider reliable.